Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning. As I said, that report was the signing of the MOU between the CBN and some states with the 36 state governors, including the Minister of the FCT. So that's the focus of our conversation on the program this morning. And as I said, we have in the studio the Executive Secretary, Nigerian Association of SMEs, Mr. Eke Ubiji. Now, Mr. Ubiji, let's take it off from there. This is it's a welcome development, definitely, no doubt,
absolutely,
for the sector.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about how much of a welcome development it is.
It's very important to go down the memory lane when you're discussing issues like this. It's very important that the new governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, is operationalizing this idea. But ideally, the person that really launched this scheme was Lamido Sanusi. That was 15th of August last year in Abuja when it was launched. After that, it took some time before the guidelines for the implementation came out. But it was not operationalized during Sanusi's tenure. It's Emefiele that really tried to operationalize it, which is a very good development. As you could see, according to the IFC and McKinsey, they released a report that states that 9.6, there is a funding gap since 2010, at 9.6 trillion naira. And look at the huge gap. A very huge funding gap. So the launching of this fund is very, very critical because this is the sector that creates employment opportunities, the sector you can use to reduce poverty. Now, every state in Nigeria cries about unemployment, even at the federal level. And we've seen it globally, that is the micro, small, and medium enterprises that create jobs. How many people can government establishment employ? But when you have 2-3 small and medium enterprises around you, employing 2-3 people, 5 people, you can see the quantum leap. Not to talk of a whole country in Nigeria with 36 states, 774 local governments. So the launching of the fund is very, very good. But in as much as the CBN governor and his team should be commended, that's just the first step. The next step is how to actually operationalize this idea. 220 billion is just the seed fund, because this fund has come to stay. So the seed fund you have currently is 220 billion.
Okay, so let me cut you here. You talked about the fact that this was started by the previous governor,
Absolutely.
Mr. Lamido Sanusi.
Absolutely.
And when that happened, he talked about 220 billion naira being the seed money for the fund. So that money, is it different from this money this agreement that has now been signed with the governors?
It's not different. It's the same thing. It's the same thing. If I said it earlier on that after Sanusi launched it, 15th of August 2013, nothing was done about it anymore. This is the first time.
So nobody has been able to access that
finance?
No,
nobody has been able to access it since it was launched by Sanusi in 2013. So that's why I said I commended the new CBN governor. At least he has taken it from where Sanusi stopped. So that people, this thing has been in the air on the air for a long time now. What of this fund that was launched with fanfare and everywhere, all over the country? What's happening to it? But kudos should be given to Emefiele for really operationalizing it, seeing it through, seeing it happen, and now involving the state governments. If you look at, he had this meeting we just watched on the 24th of this month. That was last week, Thursday, where the governors were. Not all of them were there, really. But it's a good thing that you don't even expect all the governors to be there. But it's a good thing that those of them who were there were there. But it doesn't mean others are not interested. But something very important happened at that MOU signing. If you watch the program very well, he said, look, the state governments will be entitled to about 2 billion each, which they will now disburse to clients or customers that need the money in their states. Not directly. You must have PFI, what they call participating financial institutions. So each government that gets the 2 billion will not disburse the money directly. They will use PFIs in their states to disburse. Now, out of the governors that were there, 3 of them, Osun State, Akwa Ibom State, and Delta States, wrote off the interests.
You forgot Oyo.
Oyo was there, but I'm talking of 3 that did something significant. You understand? Delta, Osun, and Delta, Osun.
You said Akwa Ibom.
Akwa Ibom States. They wrote off the interest. You know the meaning of that? There's a component of this fund that says, that has the concept of interest drawback to motivate borrowers to pay as and when due. So if you borrow and you pay as and when due, you receive some percentage from the interest you already paid, and you can go back again. But you know the issue of defaulting impairment. So this is a way of encouraging people that are going to borrow the money to pay back on time. So but these 3 state governors quickly said, okay, for the ones we are taking, the 2 billion given to us, we've done this to encourage their people to launch themselves into taking advantage of the fund.
Now let's focus on, if these funds, welcome as they are, should be targeted at specific aspects of the subsector. You know, we have different, across the value chain, we have different SMEs that cater to the various sectors.
Absolutely.
Should this fund now be target specific? I had the managing director of the NSIA, the Nigeria Sovereign Investment Authority, on the program a couple of days ago, and he talked about investment in projects. And he says the agency is doing it one step at a time, focusing on one sector at a time. So this money now, this fund that the governors and the CBN governor have come together to sign and agree on, should it be target specific? Should it be focusing on some sectors now that we want to try to see how we can improve job creation as much as possible and reduce the unemployment rate?
Absolutely. This fund is target driven. You are very, very right. If you look at the guidelines, first of all, the fund is 220 billion. Firstly, the first target is this fund targets are women. Say 132 billion, 60% of the fund will focus on women-owned enterprises, WOEs, women-owned enterprises. That's the first target. Now, if you now segment it, you have micro, small, and medium enterprises. The fund will target.
That's meaning 40%.
Yes. Then the other one, even women enterprises are also involved in that one. You understand? But 60% will go to women-owned enterprises, but the remaining will go to other sectors, even though women were also part of it. Now, specifically speaking, this fund has specific targets mentioned in the guidelines. One, it focuses on agri-value chains activities. Agri-value chain activities. 2, cottage industries. 3, artisans. 4, trade and commercial activities. Then lastly, services. When you talk of services, you are talking of people who run hotels, restaurants, schools, laundry services, hairdressing salons, and other relevant income-generating activities. If you look at the guidelines, this is what the guidelines take place. So you can see that it focused targets. And the sole objective of this is to look at the pyramid, those that come down part of the pyramid. This is what the fund is focusing at. And that's why I mentioned these specific targets. When you look at the agri-value chain, not just somebody who is into agriculture, but look at the chain itself. Those who are involved in processing are also part of it. Then where do you have cottage industries? We usually have them in rural areas. You see, if you look at this fund, you now relate it to 2 key initiatives the federal government came up with, not quite long. National Enterprise Development Program and National Industrial Revolution Program. You understand? NEDEP focuses at what is happening at the local government level. They call it all up, one local government, one product. NEDEP, through all up, tried to look at the issue of which are those products, or which products are the products that a particular local government has competitive advantage over others. So through the NEDEP program, NEDEP will encourage that local government to focus on that and engage in the production of those products that have competitive advantage over. And if you replicate that in the 774 local governments, you can see that we will now have a sense of direction. You understand what I'm saying?
So that means this fund, as much as possible, is going to encourage all of that we are...
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, there are 3 key institutions that are involved in NEDEP. Huh? The 3 institutions are this. The Bank of Industry is there. They have their own role to play. The Industrial Training Fund, that's ITF, for capacity building. And SMEDAN, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria. All of them have their different roles to play. But what the CBN have done is to bring this fund out. So that the industries, people involved in all these targets I'm talking about, a lot of them are in the rural areas, will be able to access the fund. And that's why the CBN is also carrying the state government. Because you have the federal government, you have the state government, and you have local government. And most of the people you are targeting in these sectors are in the rural areas or local governments.
So now for the state governors who should be able to access 2 billion naira from this fund, do you think they should also ensure that it's target specific? Let's also bear in mind that even before this, getting this opportunity to access the fund, they've also been doing things for MSMEs in their various states, providing
Absolutely.
funds for them. So now they have an opportunity to do something bigger. Should they now do just like the Central Bank of Nigeria, the policy, the guidelines have actually stipulated, focus also on target areas?
Definitely, they are bound to do that. That's why they met with the CBN governor. That meeting was not just to tell you have this fund available. But look, this one is available, but gentlemen, this is the way you have to do it. You know the role of the Central Bank of Nigeria. Not just to regulate or say legally social banks are established. No, it helps to regulate the economy and also play developmental role in the economy. So the CBN is there not just for the federal government, even for the states. So that's why the state governments or state governors were invited to witness the MOU signing and also hear from the CBN how this fund will be administered. But in addition to that, no state government will disburse. The state governments have different ways of, disbursing funds under their control. But this one, if you look at the guideline, no state government will just disburse the money directly. You must use a PFI, participating financial institution, and a registered financial institution through which, like if a state government establishes a microfinance bank, there's nothing stops it from doing that. You understand? Or any other agency it can use to disburse the money, and that agency must follow the stipulated guidelines.
So let's take a quick break, come back and continue this conversation. When we come back, we're now going to look at how the MSMEs can position themselves to be able to access this fund, because we know that one of the challenges that most of them face is not being able to access funds, at least at a cheap rate, which the Central Bank of Nigeria has now even made relatively easy.
Sure.
So let's catch our breath and come back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Our focus this morning is on the micro, small and medium enterprises subsector. We're looking at the CBN's 220 billion naira loan to ensure that the sector actually gets a quick start. And I've been having a conversation with the Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Association of SMEs, Mr. Eke Ubiji. He's going to be here with me when I return in just a moment. Please join me again.